The phone chirped as I was staring blankly at my kitchen table. It was a Tuesday night. I glanced at the screen and saw the word Mom. Even after all this, some naive part of me held on to a flicker of hope that she was calling just to hear my voice, hoping she wanted to ask how my week had been. I answered the call. I said, "Hi, Mom." There was no hesitation on her end. No, "Hello, Clara." No, "How have you been?" Her voice was like a shard of ice. She spoke 3 words. "Where's the money?" I just sat there, my body turning to stone. My hand clutched the phone so tightly my knuckles ached. I couldn't form a response for a long moment. And in that ringing silence, something deep inside me finally shattered. I was forced to face the truth I'd been desperately avoiding for years. I wasn't a daughter to her. I wasn't a human being with feelings or a life of my own. I was simply an ATM. I was a monthly direct deposit she felt she was owed. She didn't give a damn if I was happy. She only cared that the money hit her account on time. That phone call did more than just wound my feelings. It was an alarm bell I could no longer ignore. That was the exact instant I decided I was done. I was done paying for the affection of a family that couldn't afford to love me back. Before we get into the whole story, do me a favor and hit the like button on this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop me a comment to let me know where in the world you're watching from. To really grasp why I severed ties with my family, you need to understand where I came from. You have to see that this wasn't a sudden decision. It was a slow, simmering fire that started when I was just a little girl, and for decades, I was the only one trying to douse the flames. My story truly begins when I was 7 years old. That was the year my biological father passed away. My memories of him are fuzzy, more like feelings than clear pictures. I remember the sensation of him lifting me up so my fingertips could graze the textured ceiling. I remember he smelled like coffee and steel. When he died in a workplace accident, my entire world turned to shades of gray. My mother, Helen, simply crumbled. For a long, long time, it felt like I had lost both of my parents. She was physically present, but her eyes were vacant. She'd spend entire days in bed with the curtains drawn tight. I quickly learned to make my own toast. I learned how to turn on the Saturday morning cartoons at a whisper so I wouldn't disturb her. I learned that if I wanted to be loved, I had to be invisible. I had to be the perfect quiet girl who never caused an ounce of trouble. Then, about 2 years later, Richard walked into our lives. Richard was a genuinely good man. He was patient and steady. He never tried to be my dad, but he filled the suffocating emptiness in our house. He married my mother, and for a short, beautiful while, things felt normal again. My mom started to laugh. She started to cook dinners that weren't from a box. Richard was good to me. He'd ask about my day at school. He taught me how to fish. I began to let my guard down. I thought, okay, this is it. We're a family now. We're safe. But then my mother got pregnant. When I was 11 years old, my brother Leo was born, and the second they carried him through the front door, the entire dynamic of our home shifted irrevocably. It wasn't just that newborns demand a lot of attention. I got that. I was old enough to understand crying and feeding schedules. It was something deeper. It was the way my mother looked at him. She gazed at Leo like he was a celestial event, like he was spun from gold and starlight. When she looked at me, she just saw Clara, the daughter who was already there, the one who was fine. Richard tried his best to keep a balance, he really did. If he bought Leo a new toy truck, he'd buy me a novel or a new sketchbook. He made sure I got my turn picking the movie for Friday night. He was the buffer. He was the wall that stood between me and my mother's blinding favoritism. But he couldn't deflect every blow. I remember one specific Saturday when I was 13. I had poured my entire week into a history project. It was a detailed diorama of a medieval castle. I had painted tiny styrofoam bricks. I had used toothpicks to build a working drawbridge. It was my masterpiece. I was so incredibly proud of it. I left it on the dining room table for the glue to set. Leo was 2 at the time. He was toddling around the house, a little tornado of shrieks and giggles. My mom was in the kitchen, chatting on the phone. I was in my room, reading. Then I heard a crash. I bolted from my room and into the dining room. Leo had managed to climb onto a chair and yank my project off the table. It was annihilated. The towers were crushed. The careful paint job was a smear on the carpet. Leo sat in the middle of the wreckage, his eyes wide, and then he burst into tears. My mother came running. She didn't even glance at my destroyed project. She didn't look at my face, which was already crumpling with my own tears. She just scooped Leo up into her arms. "Oh, my sweet boy," she cooed. "Did you get a fright? Did the big noise scare you?" I just stood there, trembling with disbelief. "He broke it," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "He broke my project. It's due on Monday." My mother finally turned to me, her eyes cold. "Clara, don't raise your voice. You scared him." "But he ruined it," I shouted. It was the first time I'd ever yelled at her. I worked so hard on that. "It's just a school project," she snapped back. "He's a baby. He didn't know any better. You shouldn't have left it on the table where he could reach it. This is your fault for not being more careful." And that was the lesson. It was always my fault. If Leo broke something, I shouldn't have left it out. If Leo had a tantrum, I was being too loud. If Leo hit me, I must have done something to provoke him. As we grew older, the chasm between us widened. I was expected to be flawless. I had to get straight A's. If I brought home a B, my mother would ask, "Why didn't you try harder?" I had a list of chores. I washed the dishes. I vacuumed. I did my own laundry. Leo was expected to do nothing. He was the sensitive one. That was my mother's favorite word for him, sensitive. "Leo is too sensitive for chores," she'd say. "He needs to rest his mind." "Leo is too creative for algebra," she'd claim when he'd fail another test. "His teachers just don't understand his artistic temperament." By the time we were teenagers, our roles were carved in stone. I was the workhorse, the responsible one, the one who didn't require anything. Leo was the prince, the one who required everything. I got a job at a bookstore when I was 16. I saved up and bought my own beat-up sedan. I paid for my own gas, my own insurance, my own clothes. When Leo turned 16, my parents bought him a brand new sporty coupe. My mom said, "Well, he needs a reliable car for school." I gestured to my rusted-out car with over 150,000 miles on it. "Isn't my safety important?" "You're a much better driver," she said, waving my concern away. "Leo needs the extra help." Richard would look pained during these moments. He'd secretly slip me a $100 bill sometimes and say, "I'm so proud of you, Clara." But he never stood up to her. He loved her too much to risk a real fight. And so, he allowed her to cultivate a monster. I learned to stop asking for things. I learned to stop hoping for fairness. I just put my head down and focused on my exit strategy. Finish school, get a decent job, and get out. I thought if I just worked hard enough, I could finally escape. I thought once I was an adult, the dynamic would have to change. I was so wrong. It didn't change. It just got more expensive. The real turning point happened 4 years ago. I was 28. I had moved out, had a small apartment, and a solid job as a junior accountant. I was finally standing on my own 2 feet. I still went over for the obligatory Sunday dinners, but I kept an emotional wall built high around my heart. Then Richard died. It was a massive, sudden heart attack. It happened in the driveway on a Saturday morning while he was washing his car. By the time the paramedics arrived, he was already gone. The funeral was a blur of black clothes and hushed condolences. But what I remember most vividly is looking at my mother and brother. My mother was 57, but she looked 80. She was utterly broken. Richard had done everything for her. He paid the bills, called the plumber, managed their retirement. Without him, she was like a child abandoned in a department store. And Leo? Leo was 26 years old, a grown man. But he spent the entire funeral service playing a game on his phone, hiding it under the pew. He wasn't crying. He just looked annoyed that he had to be there, wearing a suit. After the funeral, the visitors stopped coming. The sympathy casseroles ran out, the flowers wilted, and then reality came crashing down. 2 weeks after Richard died, my mother called me. She was crying hysterically. "Clara, they're going to shut off the power," she sobbed. I left work in the middle of the day and drove to her house. I found her at the kitchen table, surrounded by a mountain of envelopes. "I don't know how to do any of this," she wept. "Richard always handled it." I looked at the electric bill. It was 3 months past due. She hadn't opened her mail in months, maybe even before he died. "It's okay, Mom," I said, my voice gentle. "I'll take care of it." I called the power company. I paid the bill right there, using money from my own savings account. I then sat down and spent the next 3 hours organizing all her paperwork. I set up automatic payments for the water, the gas, the internet. "Thank you, Clara," she said, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. "I don't know what I would do without you. You're so strong. You're just like your stepfather." Those words felt like a steel trap closing around me, but I didn't recognize it at the time. "You're so strong." It wasn't a compliment. It was a license for her to use me. I told myself this was a temporary situation. She's grieving. She just lost her husband. I have to step up. This is what family is for. But temporary slowly bled into forever. A month later, the dishwasher broke. My mom called me, not a repairman. "I don't have the money for a new one," she said. "The life insurance is still tied up. I bought her a new dishwasher. It cost me $750. 2 months after that, Leo got a reckless driving ticket. My mom called me. "He can't afford it, Clara. If he doesn't pay it, he'll lose his license. Then he can't even look for a job." "Why doesn't he have a job now?" I asked. "It's been 6 months since Richard died." "He's grieving," she snapped. "He takes things harder than you do. He's a sensitive soul. He needs time." I paid the ticket, another $300. It became a relentless pattern. Every single month there was a new crisis. The roof had a leak. The car needed new tires. The property tax was due. My mother's small pension from her old job wasn't nearly enough to cover their lifestyle, mostly because their lifestyle included fully supporting a 26-year-old man who refused to lift a finger. Leo was living in the house for free. He slept until noon. He played video games until the sun came up. He ate the food I bought. He used the electricity I paid for. He drove the coupe my parents had bought him, using gas money that my mother gave him from the funds I provided. One night, about a year after Richard's death, I went over for dinner. The house was a disaster. Stacks of pizza boxes were piled in the living room. The sink was overflowing with dirty dishes. I couldn't stand the smell, so I started washing them. "Where's Leo?" I asked. "He's in his room," Mom said, her eyes glued to the TV. "Mom, he needs to start helping," I said, scrubbing a greasy pan with more force than necessary. "He is 27. He isn't working. He isn't in school. The least he could do is wash a dish." My mother sighed and paused her show. "Why are you always so hard on him?" hard on him? I spun around, suds dripping from my gloves. Mom, I am paying your mortgage. I am paying for his phone plan. I come over here 3 times a week to help you with chores. What does he do? He provides me with company, she said, her voice defensive. He is here with me. You have your own life. You leave. Leo stays. That one stung. I leave because I have to work, I said through gritted teeth. I have to work to pay for this house. You don't have to throw money in my face, she said coolly. Family helps family. Richard would be so disappointed to hear you talking like this. You're being selfish. Selfish. I was working 50-hour weeks at the accounting firm. I hadn't bought myself a new pair of shoes in a year because every spare dollar went to them. I was constantly exhausted. I had permanent dark circles under my eyes. And she had the audacity to call me selfish. But I didn't leave. I didn't stop paying. Why? Because of the guilt. Because she was a widow. Because she was my mother. And because deep down, some stupid, hopeful part of me believed that if I just did enough, if I paid enough bills, if I solved enough of their problems, she would finally look at me with the same adoration she had for Leo. I thought I could buy her love. But you can't purchase something that was never for sale to begin with. The entitlement got worse. It wasn't just about emergencies anymore. Clara, I need some cash for groceries. I'd send $300. She'd use it to buy ribeye steaks and expensive snacks for Leo. Clara, the internet is too slow. Leo can't stream his games properly. I upgraded the internet plan. Clara, Leo's coupe needs a major engine repair. That was a big one. The repair was going to be $2,000. I can't do that, Mom, I said, my stomach twisting. I don't have that kind of extra cash right now. But he needs his car, she panicked. How will he get around? He doesn't go anywhere, I argued. He stays in his room all day. He's depressed, she said. Driving helps him clear his head. Please, Clara, just put it on your credit card. I'll pay you back as soon as the estate is settled. She never paid me back, not a single cent. For 3 years, this was my life. I had become the husband she lost and the father Leo never had to be. I was carrying the weight of 3 adults on my shoulders. I was drowning, and they were standing on my head to keep their own mouths above water. And through all of it, Leo never once said thank you. He just walked past me in the hallway, headphones on, as if I were a piece of furniture. I kept telling myself eventually he'll grow up. Eventually, Mom will see what I'm doing and appreciate me. I had no idea that a time bomb was ticking. I had no idea that while I was writing checks and losing sleep, my mother was making plans that would surgically remove me from the picture. I was trying to save our family. She was trying to secure her favorite's future. And I was about to find out exactly how little I truly mattered. The day my life imploded didn't start with a fight. It started with a favor. It was a rainy Wednesday afternoon in October. I remember the drops smacking against my car's windshield as I drove to my mother's house. I was bone-tired. I'd just pulled a 10-hour shift at the firm, and all I wanted was to go home, get into my sweatpants, and disappear. But my mother had called me 3 times, her voice edged with panic. I can't find the deed to the house, she'd said. I need to file for the property tax exemption. The deadline is Friday. Please, Clara, you know where everything is. My eyes are getting so bad. So like always, I went. When I arrived, the house was warm, the TV blaring. Leo was sprawled on the couch with his girlfriend Jessica. They were surrounded by takeout containers. The smell of greasy noodles filled the air. Hey, I said. Leo just grunted, not taking his eyes off the screen. Jessica mumbled a hey back. I walked past them and into the kitchen. My mother was at the table, a pile of disorganized papers in front of her. She looked frazzled. Thank God you're here, she sighed. This whole mess is giving me a migraine. It's fine, Mom, I said, putting my purse on a chair. I'll find it. I went into the small room that had once been Richard's home office. It still smelled faintly of old books and his pipe tobacco. There was a metal filing cabinet in the corner. I knew this cabinet intimately. I was the one who had organized it after he died. I was the one who had made all the neat labels: taxes, insurance, house, medical. I pulled open the H drawer and started flipping through the files. My fingers brushed against a thick manila envelope that was out of place. It was crammed in the very back, hidden behind a decade of old tax returns. It had a new label on it, written in my mother's shaky script. Last Will and Testament. Updated July 2024. I froze. July 2024. That was just 3 months ago. I knew Richard had a will. It was straightforward. Everything went to my mother. And if she passed, everything was to be split 50-50 between me and Leo. That's what Richard had told me himself years ago. He'd said, "I want things to be fair." My curiosity turned into a sick, churning feeling. My heart began to hammer against my ribs. I pulled the envelope out and opened it. I wasn't snooping, I told myself. I was the one handling everything. I needed to know what was in it. I started reading. The legalese was easy for me to understand, thanks to my job. I, Helen Miller, being of sound mind. I skipped ahead to the important part. Article 3, Distribution of Property. I hereby bequeath my primary residence, located at 22 Oak Street, to my son, Leo Miller. I blinked. I read it again. Maybe I'd misread it. Maybe it said to be shared. No, to my son, Leo Miller. I kept reading, my hands starting to tremble. I bequeath the contents of my savings account ending in 7432, to my son, Leo Miller. I bequeath my remaining life insurance policy to my son, Leo Miller. I bequeath the 2020 sedan to my son, Leo Miller. I scanned the page frantically, searching for my own name. Where was Clara? Finally, I found it. It was a small, dismissive paragraph at the very bottom. To my daughter, Clara Miller, I leave the antique china cabinet and my collection of family photo albums. As she is capable and self-sufficient, she has no need for further financial assistance. I stood there in the quiet office. The sound of the sitcom from the living room felt a million miles away. It felt like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed my heart. It wasn't about the money. I had my own job, my own savings. I didn't need her money. It was the principle. It was what the money represented. For 4 years, I had paid the mortgage on that house. I had paid the insurance on that car. I had put the food in that refrigerator. I had paid to fix the roof over their heads. I was actively paying for the assets she was now giving solely to him. I was, in effect, buying my brother a house he would inherit. I looked at the date again. July. I remembered July clearly. That was the month my car's air conditioning had died. It cost me $600 to fix. I had to put it on a credit card because I had just given my mother $800 to pay for Leo's emergency deposit on an apartment he never even moved into. And in the very same month that I was juggling my own finances to bail him out again, she was in a lawyer's office signing me out of her life. She had watched me struggle and thought, Clara will be fine. She had watched Leo sit on the couch and thought, he needs everything. Clara? My mother's voice drifted in from the kitchen. Did you find it yet? I quickly shoved the will back into the envelope, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I put it back in the drawer, took a deep, shuddering breath, and grabbed the folder labeled House Deed. I walked back into the kitchen. My face felt flushed. I felt nauseous. Here it is, I said. My voice sounded alien to me, tight and high-pitched. Oh, wonderful, she said, not even looking up at my face. She took the folder. "You're a lifesaver. Do you want some of the takeout?" Leo left a little bit. I looked at the greasy containers. I looked toward the living room where Leo was now laughing at something on TV. I looked at my mother. She seemed so small and fragile, the woman I had been protecting for 4 years. But in that moment, she looked like a complete stranger. "No," I said. "I have to go." "Already?" She looked up, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. "But you just got here. I wanted to tell you about my doctor's appointment." "I have a headache," I lied. "I just need to go home." "Okay," she said, her attention already returning to the papers. "Drive safe. Oh, and Clara, can you transfer the money for the internet bill tonight? It's due tomorrow." The internet bill. So Leo could play his games in the house I was paying for, which would soon be his. "Sure, Mom," I said through a throat that felt like it was closing up. I walked out of the house. I got into my car. I didn't cry. I sat there in the driveway for a full 5 minutes, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles were white. I didn't scream. I didn't storm back inside and flip the table. I just drove home in the rain. But on that drive, something inside me withered and died. The Clara who desperately wanted to be a good daughter, the Clara who wanted to save everyone, she didn't make it home that night. I didn't go back for 3 days. I needed to process. I needed to make sure I wasn't just being overly emotional. I replayed the last 4 years in my head, a slideshow of every check I'd written, every time I'd canceled plans with friends to fix something for my mom, every time I wore worn-out shoes so I could buy Leo new tires. I realized I had been investing my life into a company that was designed from the start to bankrupt me. I knew I had to confront her. If I didn't, the bitterness would eat me alive, but I had to do it calmly. I didn't want a screaming match. I wanted an explanation. On Saturday morning, I drove back to the house. It was a bright, sunny day. The front lawn was overgrown. Leo hadn't mowed it, of course. I usually paid a lawn service to do it, but I hadn't sent the check this month. I used my key and let myself in. The house was quiet. Leo was, predictably, still asleep at 10 a.m. My mother was in the kitchen wearing her bathrobe, making a pot of coffee. "Clara," she said, a smile on her face. "I didn't know you were coming. I was just about to call you." The dishwasher is making a strange rattling noise. I didn't smile back. I stood in the doorway of the kitchen, my purse still on my shoulder. I didn't want to come in. I didn't want to get comfortable. "We need to talk," I said. The chill in my voice made her pause. She set the coffee pot down and her smile evaporated. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Are you sick?" "I found the will," I said flatly. No preamble, I just laid it out. My mother went perfectly still. She looked down at the counter, picking up a spoon and fiddling with it. She didn't look surprised that I'd found it. She just looked annoyed that she'd been caught. "I see," she said, her voice devoid of emotion. "You left everything to Leo," I said. "The house, the money, the car, everything." She finally turned to face me, crossing her arms over her chest in a defensive posture. "It is my property, Clara. I can do what I want with it." "It's not just your property," I said, my voice shaking despite my efforts to keep it steady. "I've been paying the mortgage on this house for 4 years. I paid off the credit card debt Richard left. I pay the utilities. I pay for the food that's in this refrigerator." "And that was very kind of you," she said, as if I were a helpful neighbor. "You helped your family." "Helped?" I let out a dry, humorless laugh. "Mom, I have supported this family, and as a thank you, you decided that when you die, The brother who has never contributed a single dime gets everything, and I get a china cabinet and some photo albums. Leo needs security, she said, her tone condescending, as if she were explaining something obvious to a child. Look at yourself, Clara. You have a career. You have a nice apartment. You're strong. You know how to take care of yourself. I know how to take care of myself because I had to. I shot back, taking a step closer. I never had a choice. Leo is different, she said, her eyes softening with that familiar, tender look she reserved only for him. He's sensitive. The world is too hard for him. If I don't leave him the house, where will he go? He can't make it on his own the way you can. He is 28 years old, I shouted, my control finally snapping. He's not a child. He is a grown man who refuses to grow up because you have never, ever let him. Lower your voice, she hissed, glancing toward the hallway. You'll wake him up. Let him wake up, I said. Let him hear this. She slammed her hand down on the counter. Stop it. You are being greedy. This is just about money. Why do you care so much about money? It's not the money. I could feel hot tears stinging my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. It's what it means, Mom. It means you don't value me. It means you think my sacrifice, my time, my life is worthless. It means you don't care about my future, only his. She looked me dead in the eye, and then she delivered the words that finally, irrevocably, broke the chain. Clara, you have to understand, she said calmly, as if it were the most reasonable thing in the world. I love you. You are my daughter. But Leo needs me. I have always had to love him more because he needs more. That is a mother's job. You love him more? I whispered, the words feeling like ash in my mouth. I love him differently, she corrected. But we both knew it was a lie. You were always so much like Richard, so cold, independent. You never needed me to hold your hand. Leo needs me. He is my baby, and I will not apologize for protecting him. She took a sip of her coffee, looking completely unfazed. She felt justified. In her twisted logic, punishing the successful child to reward the lazy one was the right and moral thing to do. You think I'm cold? I asked quietly. Sometimes, she said with a shrug. Like right now. You're counting pennies instead of thinking about your brother's well-being. I nodded slowly. The sadness vanished. The hurt evaporated. All that was left was a cold, hard clarity. It was as if a thick fog had lifted, and I was seeing her for the very first time. She wasn't a victim. She wasn't a helpless widow. She was a woman who had made a choice. She chose Leo over and over and over again. And by choosing him so completely, she had chosen to lose me. Okay, I said. Okay, she asked, a look of relief spreading across her face. She thought she'd won. She thought I was finally accepting my place. Good. I'm glad we've cleared the air. Now, about that dishwasher. I'm not fixing the dishwasher, I said. What? She frowned. I'm not fixing the dishwasher, I repeated. And I'm not paying the internet bill tonight. Clara, don't be so childish, she warned. Just because you're angry doesn't mean you can stop helping. You said I'm strong, I said, backing away toward the front door. You said I'm independent. You said Leo needs you. I put my hand on the doorknob. So let Leo fix the dishwasher. Let Leo pay the internet bill. If he's getting the house, he might as well start paying for it now. He has no money, she shouted, panic finally flaring in her eyes. You can't do this. I can, I said, my voice steady, because I'm strong. Remember, Clara, she screamed as I opened the door. If you walk out that door. Goodbye, Mom, I said, and stepped out into the bright sunlight. I could hear her yelling my name as I walked to my car. I heard the front door slam open. I didn't look back. I got in my car, started the engine, and drove away. I didn't know where I was going. but I knew with absolute certainty that I was never going back there. For the first time in my life, I wasn't thinking about what they needed. I was thinking about what I needed, and what I needed was to be free. I drove straight to my apartment but didn't go inside right away. I just sat in my car in the parking spot for 20 minutes. My hands were still shaking, but my mind was eerily calm. It was a strange sensation, like the quiet stillness after a violent storm has passed. I walked up the 2 flights of stairs to my apartment, opened my laptop, and sat at my small desk. I didn't cry. I didn't call a friend to vent. I had work to do. I logged into my online banking portal. I looked at the list of scheduled automatic transfers. Miller Family Mortgage, $1,400 per month. Miller Family Utilities, $400 per month. Leo's phone, $90 per month. Mom's cell, $70 per month. Car insurance, Leo, $180 per month. It was staggering. Seeing it all laid out there in black and white made me feel physically ill. That was over $2,000 a month. That was nearly half of my take-home pay. I'd been living in a cramped 1-bedroom apartment, driving a 15-year-old car and skipping vacations so I could send that money to people who thought I was cold. I clicked on the first transfer. Cancel. A small box popped up. Are you sure you want to cancel this recurring payment? I clicked yes. I did it again and again and again. Cancel, 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 cancel. With every click, I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders. It was a physical sensation. The knot of anxiety that permanently resided in my chest began to loosen. Then I called the electric company. "Hi," I said to the representative. "I need to remove my name and my payment information from the account at 22 Oak Street." "Certainly, ma'am. And who will be taking over the billing?" "Helen Miller," I said. "It's her house." I called the internet provider. "I'd like to cancel the service at 22 Oak Street, effective immediately." "Is there a reason for the cancellation?" the man on the other end asked politely. "I don't live there," I said, "and I'm done paying for it." It took me about an hour. By 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I had severed every last financial tie. I didn't block their numbers yet. I wanted to, but I knew if I blocked them right away, they would just show up at my apartment. I needed to let this play out. I needed them to understand the full scope of what had just happened. For the next few weeks, there was only silence. It was bizarre. I had been braced for an immediate explosion, but I forgot that bills have due dates. The payments I had canceled were for the upcoming month. So for a few weeks, my mother and Leo continued to live in their bubble, assuming I was just throwing a temper tantrum. They probably thought, "Oh, Clara's just upset. She'll get over it. She always comes back." During those quiet weeks, I watched the money stay in my bank account. My next paycheck came in, and instead of immediately transferring half of it away, it just sat there. The balance grew. I went to the mall and bought myself a new pair of boots, expensive real leather ones I had been wanting for 3 years. I bought fancy face cream. I ordered myself sushi for dinner on a Tuesday night. It felt almost illicit, like I was stealing, but I was only stealing back my own life. I started sleeping through the night. The low-grade anxiety that usually woke me at 3 a.m., the mental checklist of, did I pay Mom's water bill? Ours was gone. It wasn't my bill. It wasn't my water. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. I knew their bill cycle by heart. The mortgage was due on the 1st, the electricity on the 5th, the internet on the 10th. November bled into December. The silence from my family was deafening. They weren't calling to apologize. They weren't calling to ask how I was. They were punishing me with their silence, waiting for me to come crawling back, checkbook in hand. But I wasn't crawling. I was learning to fly. Then came December 12th, the 30-day mark. That was the day the grace periods would have expired. That was the day the late notices would start arriving in their mailbox. That was the day reality would finally knock on the door of 22 Oak Street. I was at my desk at work when my phone started vibrating. It buzzed once, then twice. Then it just kept buzzing, a frantic dance across my desk. I looked at the screen. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. 5 minutes later, Leo. I let it go to voicemail. 10 minutes later, Jessica. I stared at the phone. The fixer in me, the old Clara, wanted to answer. The sister in me wanted to explain. But the woman I was becoming, the woman who had read that will, she knew better. I switched my phone to Do Not Disturb and got back to my spreadsheet. I didn't listen to the messages until 6 o'clock that evening, when I was safely back in my apartment. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my couch. My phone showed 14 missed calls and 22 text messages. Mom, call me immediately. Mom, the internet is off. Leo, WTF, Clara? Mom, there is a letter here from the bank. What did you do? I took a deep breath and pressed the call button next to my mother's name. She answered on the first ring. Where is the money? It was the same question she had asked 1,000 times, but this time her voice wasn't just entitled. It was laced with pure panic. It was high-pitched and trembling. Hello, Mom, I said calmly. Don't you hello me, she screamed. The internet is down. Leo was in the middle of a tournament, and I got a notice that the power bill is overdue. Why didn't you pay it? I told you I wasn't going to, I said, my voice even. I told you last month, I'm not paying anymore. I thought you were being dramatic, she shrieked. I thought you were just throwing a fit. You can't just cut us off. We are your family. I'm not cutting off my family, I corrected her. I'm cutting off my expenses. I'm saving for my own future now. Remember? Since I'm so self-sufficient. You selfish little... She choked on her own rage. Put the money back. Transfer it right now. The mortgage is late. Do you have any idea what the late fee is? I don't, I said. And I don't care. It's going to be Leo's house, isn't it? Ask Leo to pay for it. Put him on the phone. I could hear Leo shouting in the background, give me the phone. There was a rustling sound and then Leo's voice exploded in my ear. You ruined my game, he bellowed. I was ranked. Do you know how much that account is worth? The internet just cut out. Fix it. Fix it right now. I almost laughed. A grown man screaming about a video game while his mother was panicking about foreclosure. Get a job, Leo, I said simply. I can't get a job, he screamed back. I have anxiety. You know that. You're just trying to ruin my life. You're ruining your own life, I said coolly. You're 28. You're not a child. You own a house now, or you will anyway. Owners pay bills. Mom? Leo whined, turning away from the phone. Make her fix it. Then I heard another voice pipe in. It was Jessica. You're a real bitch, Clara, she yelled into the speaker. How could you do this to them? Your mom is old. She's not well. If she's not well, she should use some of the money she saved by not buying me a birthday present for the last 10 years, I said. And Jessica? If you're living there now, maybe you should chip in for rent. It's due. I'm going to sue you, my mother shrieked, snatching the phone back. I will sue you for elder abandonment. I will tell everyone what a horrible, ungrateful daughter you are. I'll tell Aunt Carol. I'll tell the whole church. Go ahead, I said, my voice like ice. Tell them. Tell them you wrote me out of the will and left everything to Leo. Tell them I paid all your bills for the last 4 years. Tell them everything. I have the bank statements, Mom. If you want to make this public, I will happily show everyone exactly who paid for what. There was dead silence on the other end. She knew it was a fight she couldn't win. She knew if people saw the actual numbers, her poor, helpless widow act would crumble to dust. "Clara," she said, her voice dropping to a desperate, pathetic whimper. "Please, just this once. We don't have any groceries. The refrigerator is empty." It was the guilt trip, the final weapon in her arsenal. "I'm hungry," she whispered. My heart gave a painful squeeze. It hurt. It really, truly hurt. But then I remembered the words on that will. I remembered Leo needs more. I remembered the new leather boots in my closet and how good it felt to not be used. "Ask Leo to sell his gaming computer," I said. "That should cover groceries for a month or two." "He can't," she cried. "He loves that computer." "Then I guess he loves his computer more than he loves feeding you," I said. "How can you be so cruel?" she sobbed. "I learned from the best," I replied. "Don't call us again," she spat, her voice turning venomous. "If you're not going to help, you're dead to us." "Okay," I said. "Goodbye, Mom." I hung up, and then I did the final thing. I went into my contacts. Block contact, Mom. Block contact, Leo. Block contact, Jessica. I set my phone down on the coffee table. The room was utterly silent. I waited for the crushing guilt to hit me. I waited to feel like a terrible person, but I didn't. I felt clean. I walked to my window and looked out at the city lights. I was alone. I had no mother, no brother, no family to speak of. But for the first time in 28 years, I finally belonged to myself. The explosion was over. The dust was settling, and I was still standing. The silence that followed was the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. For the first time in a decade, my phone didn't ring with a manufactured crisis. I didn't wake up to a string of text messages begging for money. I didn't have to leave work early to deal with a flat tire for a brother who refused to learn how to change one himself. But just because I wasn't speaking to them didn't mean I was completely in the dark. We live in a world where everyone talks, and my Aunt Carol, my mother's sister, became the unwilling bridge. About 2 months after the final phone call, Aunt Carol called me. I hadn't blocked her number. She had never once asked me for anything. "Clara," she said, her voice grave. "I went to see your mother yesterday. How is she?" I asked. I waited for that familiar clench in my stomach, but it didn't come. I just felt a detached curiosity. "She looks awful," Carol said bluntly. "And the house, Clara, the house is freezing. They're keeping the thermostat set at 60 degrees because they can't afford the gas bill." "That sounds uncomfortable," I said calmly. "It's more than uncomfortable," Carol pressed. "It's a disaster. The lawn hasn't been mowed in months. There's trash piling up by the garage. And Leo? Well, Leo is in a perpetual mood." "Let me guess," I said. "He still doesn't have a job." "He got a job delivering pizzas," Carol admitted. "He quit after 3 days. He said the manager spoke to him disrespectfully." I laughed out loud. It wasn't a mean laugh. It was a laugh of pure, unadulterated vindication. "Of course he did." "Your mother is talking about taking out a second mortgage on the house," Carol warned. "She says she has no other choice. She's telling everyone you abandoned them." "I didn't abandon them, Aunt Carol," I said, my voice firm. "I retired. I retired from being their personal bank. Mom has a pension. She has Social Security. The only reason she's broke is because she's supporting 2 able-bodied adults, Leo and his girlfriend, who refuse to work. That's her choice, not mine." "She's telling people you stole money from her," Carol whispered. "Let her," I said. "If anyone asks me about it, I'll be happy to show them the receipts. I'll show them 4 years of mortgage statements I paid. Do you want to see them?" "No," Carol said quickly. "No, I believe you, Clara. I've seen how Leo is for years. I wanted you to know." "Thanks, Aunt Carol. But I don't need to know. Not anymore." I hung up the phone. A strange and wonderful thing happened over the next 6 months. My life began to blossom. It wasn't just about the money, though. That was a huge part of it. For the first time in my adult life, I had a savings account that was actually growing. I built up an emergency fund. I started planning a trip to Spain, something I had dreamed of since I was a teenager. But the most significant change was in my health. The chronic acne on my chin cleared up. The dark circles under my eyes faded. I stopped grinding my teeth in my sleep. I realized that for years I had been carrying a backpack filled with boulders. I was trudging through life, exhausted, wondering why everything felt so hard. Then I finally took the backpack off, and suddenly, I could run. I heard through the grapevine that Leo eventually had to sell the coupe, the very same car my parents bought him instead of helping me with college tuition. He sold it to pay off his mounting credit card debt. He was now driving my mom's old sedan. I heard that Jessica left him. Apparently, once the free ride and the fantasy of unearned wealth came to a screeching halt, she realized Leo wasn't such a great catch after all. She moved back in with her own parents. And my mother? She was still in that house. But she was now living in the reality she had so carefully constructed. She had chosen Leo. Now she was stuck with him. She was aging, exhausted, and broke, waiting for a son who would never be capable of taking care of her. It was a tragedy, but it was no longer my tragedy. It has been 1 year since I cut them off. I visited Richard's grave yesterday. I brought him a small bouquet of his favorite flowers. I stood there in the quiet cemetery and I talked to him. "I know you wanted me to take care of them," I said to the cold granite headstone. "I know you thought you were leaving me in charge. But you were wrong, Richard." I realized something important standing there on the manicured grass. Richard was a good man, but he was also an enabler. He loved my mother so much that he was blind to her faults. He shielded her from reality. And when he died, he passed that thankless job on to me. But I am not her husband. I am her daughter. Parents are supposed to raise their children to be independent. They're supposed to want us to fly. My mother didn't want me to fly. She wanted me to stay on the ground and serve as the foundation for Leo's crumbling castle. I used to feel so much guilt. I used to lie awake at night thinking, what if something terrible happens to them? What if Mom gets sick? What if Leo ends up homeless? Now I know the truth. If those things happen, they happen. I cannot set myself on fire just to keep them warm. I've found a new family. I have friends who ask me how my day was and actually listen to the answer. I have a boyfriend now, a wonderful man named Mark. On our second date, my hand automatically reached for the check. He gently pushed it away. "I've got this," he said. "You don't have to," I said, the words a reflex. "I can pay. I'm used to paying." "I know you can," he smiled, "but you don't have to. We're partners. Partners." That one word made me tear up right there in the middle of the restaurant. It felt so foreign, so beautiful. I am not the fixer anymore. I am not the ATM. I am not the invisible daughter. I am Clara. I have scars. I have trust issues that I'm working on in therapy. I still flinch a little when my phone rings unexpectedly late at night, but I am free. My mother may or may not still have my number blocked. I don't know, because she is still blocked on my phone. I don't hate her. I honestly don't. I just feel a profound pity for her. She had 2 children. One was ready to give her the world, and the other just wanted to take it. She bet everything on the wrong horse. That is her burden to carry for the rest of her life. I have finally put mine down. My name is Clara, and if you've watched this far, I have a feeling you might know exactly how I felt. Maybe you're the responsible one in your family. Maybe you're the one whose phone only rings when something is broken or a bill is unpaid. Maybe you have a sibling who is treated like precious cargo while you're treated like a public utility. I want to tell you something that it took me 28 years to learn. You do not owe your family your future. Family is a heavy, powerful word, and some people use it as a weapon. They say, "But we're family," to make you accept behavior you would never tolerate from a stranger. They use it to drain your bank account, your peace of mind, and your self-worth. But here is the truth. Love is an action. Love is not just sharing DNA. If their love for you is conditional on what you can provide, that isn't love. That's a transaction. If their love for you vanishes the moment you say no, that isn't love. That's control. You are allowed to say stop. You are allowed to keep the money you work so hard for. You are allowed to let grown adults face the consequences of their own choices. It will be terrifying. They will scream. They will call you selfish. They will try to make you feel small and guilty. Let them scream. Because on the other side of that guilt, there is a whole life waiting for you. A life where you are the main character, not just a supporting actor in someone else's never-ending drama. I chose myself, and it was the best decision I have ever made. Now, I want to hear from you. Are you the Clara of your family? Have you ever had to choose your own freedom over your family's expectations? Tell me your story in the comments, and let me know where you're watching from. Let's remind each other that we are not alone, and we are not invisible.